Okay, so let's get into the third trimester. You're in your home stretch. You're beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to add a little bit of third trimester and kind of labor and delivery with this, so get ready. So this is what I wish I would have known, or what I want to share with you all. In your third trimester, stress tests for the baby are normal. I did not know that. So like around 35 to 36 weeks, no, around 35 weeks, I think for me, I had to start getting weekly stress tests. And that was because I think for Adura, she started to measure the same. And so they thought maybe she wasn't growing. So they needed to monitor her. So I was going once a week and then twice a week, the closer to 40 weeks. So just know that that can be normal. Doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong. They're just taking preventive measures. The other thing, your medical insurance mostly covers you. You have some coverage for baby, but not a whole lot. Because technically, and if this is of course if you have medical insurance, baby's not on your insurance yet until you have the baby. So I got a nice little statement in the mail when I had a doula. Now, I will say I had Aflac, and no, Aflac does not sponsor this, but I picked up the Aflac plan, hospital indemnity plan, and so that helped me out a great deal with paying that bill. I think even with the coverage that I had, which was through a PPO, I still had an $800 hospital bill just for a doula. I had no out-of-pocket expenses whatsoever for my delivery, but I had to pay $800 for baby girl. The other thing I want to tell you, don't obsess about getting your nursery ready, because baby's going to be co-sleeping or in a co-sleeper for quite some time. So take your time getting your nursery together. The baby really just you need to just keep the baby alive, though. Like, co-sleeper, some onesies, of course you might want to get a dresser and a changing table, but don't obsess about having everything done for when baby comes home. My daughter's crib did not go up until late May. She was almost 6 months. Take your time, don't stress. The other thing, in your third trimester, you want to start eating foods rich in iron, and I say that because I remember when I went for a doctor's visit, my doctor was like, they take your blood, and he said, oh, your iron is high, that's great. And I'm just kind of like, why? So apparently, it helps because you're going to lose a lot of blood when you have the baby, and two, you're going to need the iron for, if you choose to do so, breastfeeding. So you want to start eating more foods rich in iron. So that's a good one. The other thing, and now we're getting more into, I guess, labor. Getting an inducement does not necessarily mean you're going to get Pitocin. So if you've seen my birth story video, you know that I didn't get Pitocin. I was terrified to get Pitocin. I heard so many horror stories about Pitocin and the horrible contractions that come with Pitocin. Now, I still had bad contractions, but I received Cytotec, and I could have taken it orally, but my doctor inserted it vaginally. So I didn't even have to get Pitocin because the Cytotec really did what it was supposed to do. So just know that. The other thing, they no longer do episiotomies. So I was afraid. I was so very afraid. Now, you might still tear, but I learned this in taking my birth class that most hospitals or doctors, OBGYNs, they no longer do episiotomies because now the school of thought is if you're going to tear, your body's going to tear naturally where it needs to if you deliver vaginally for the baby to come out. So they don't cut for you because they may cut more than necessary. So now they just, unless it's absolutely medically necessary, they really don't do episiotomies anymore. They let you tear naturally if you're even going to tear. So just know that, put those fears to rest. Breastfeeding. Breastfeeding, if you've never had a baby before and you want to breastfeed, I don't care what they tell you in your breastfeeding classes, which I did take. I took numerous breastfeeding classes. I don't care what they tell you. when you breastfeed and it's your first time, it hurts. It hurts. And there are some women that I know who've had multiple children and they don't breastfeed. And they like still may not breastfeed because it hurts. Like, it hurts. For me, it hurts so bad, and I just kind of pushed through. I remember the lactation nurse coming in and saying, how's the breastfeeding going? And I was like, see for yourself. Like, my nipples were bleeding. So she, just kind of said, oh, you poor dear, and gave me something for it. But just know, it hurts. I don't care what they tell you. It hurts. You really just have to get used to it. And my daughter didn't even have a hard time latching on. She did very well. It's just, it was my first time out of the gate, and that's what I experienced. So contractions. So remember what your menstrual cycles were like? Contractions are probably going to be, or most likely going to feel just like that, but much, much worse. So I bring this up because I remember being in my birthing class, and the lady was like, contractions are going to feel like this in your abdomen, blah, 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 blah. No, I felt absolutely nothing in my abdomen. I felt every single contraction in my back. After the fact, I thought about it and I was like, when I had my periods, my cramps, that's where I felt the most pain and discomfort. Like, the older I got with my menstrual cycle, the worse my back pain felt. And so just want you all to know, it's probably going to be, your contractions are probably going to be much like your menstrual cramps, but much, much worse. So whatever those are for you, keep that in mind. A couple other things. Everyone worries about pooping on the table. You might not poop. I didn't poop. But you might pee. I peed. So you're in labor, and sometimes you're in so much pain you can't get up, get to the bathroom, baby's, coming, whatever. You lay there and you pee. Now when I peed, I actually found out that I peed and my the sac broke. So I didn't even know that. I just knew that because I was hooked up to the IV, all that hydration, like, I knew I had to pee. And so the nurse was like, go ahead and pee. That's what we're here for. So just know that you might not poop, you might pee. The other couple of things I want to share with you all, the hospital charges you for everything. Now, some of y'all saying, okay, well, yeah, I know that. But this is how they charge you. When you go into the hospital, if you go into a hospital, if you have to go to a birthing center or do it at home, of course, this won't apply. If you go to a hospital, they give you a bracelet. Every single time they scan that bracelet, it's going on your chart and you are being charged for something. What that means is, or they're charging baby if they scan baby. What that means is, they come in, they ask you, do you want a, Motrin or whatever, and you say yes. They scan your bracelet. They scan, every time they scan your bracelet, just know you're being charged for something. Now, the hospital also gives you almost everything. And by that, I mean, don't overpack. So someone kind of did give me that heads up, and I'm so glad they did, because I went into the hospital with one bag, I left with like 3. They give you diapers, they give you, of course they dress baby, so you have a few articles of clothing for baby. They give you so many documents. They give you, if you deliver vaginally, supplies for that. They give you so many things. And so pack lightly, period. A couple other things. Once you have the baby, second night with baby is pretty bad. Your first night stay in the hospital, the baby sleeps. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Second night, and I found out this was common from the lactation nurse, they cry almost all night. And it's very telling for what you're in store for. But second night with baby, they cry. That's what they do. They cry. If they don't, your baby's exceptional. The other thing, you might feel pressured to get an epidural. And I say that because I wish I had known that, because after the fact, I realized hospitals are in business and they, reap a benefit from whatever it is they do. So of course, the anesthesiologists, will make the most money from that. But just know you might feel pressured to get an epidural. So unless you have it made up in your head that you're not doing it, just keep that in mind. No one kind of browbeat me in any way, but it was always a question, do you want the epidural? Do you want the epidural? And I was just like, no, I'm good. So just know that it might feel like pressure to get an epidural. A couple other things. I wish someone had told me, like what it felt like to have to push. And everybody says it's kind of hard to explain. I think I figured it out. So the sensation to push, have you ever, not to be graphic, but have you ever had to do a number 2? Not a number 1, a number 2. Like, you need to get home and you need to go to the bathroom because you need to lay your burdens down, okay? The sensation to push, and like you can't do it. That's the main thing. Like you're out somewhere, you're like, oh, I gotta go do a number 2. But your muscles are like, no, we not at home yet, we gotta hold it. That's what the sensation to push feels like. Your body is saying all of a sudden, here comes baby. And your muscles, your vaginal muscles, contract, like it wants to keep it, but your body wants to push it out. And that is the absolute best way I can try to explain that to you. I'm not trying to be graphic, but that's a lot what it feels like. A couple other things. How long it takes your vagina to recover. I wish someone had told me this. They don't tell you in birthing class, they don't tell you at the doctor's office at your postpartum visit. And yes, your postpartum visit is typically 6 weeks after delivery. If you have a vaginal birth, it takes a long time it takes a while. Like, I would say 10 weeks to feel like yourself. Not like, I'm managing, like yourself. It takes about a good 10 weeks at least. And I wish I had known that. The last thing I want to tell you about your 3rd trimester, and again, this is after you've had, well, I can't say trimester, but you've had a baby, right? Just know that it's normal if you panic or have a panic attack. No one told me this. I shared this with a friend and she told me, she was like, that's okay, it's common. Because I told her it was about maybe a week after I had my daughter, and I remember my husband said, you need to get out of the house. Just go to CVS, just go somewhere. And that's what I did. And I was in the aisle of CVS and I looked down, I was shopping and I just looked down and I noticed that I didn't have my bump anymore. And I literally, for a split second, panicked. Heart palpitated, like literally just panicked, because I don't know, I was so used to seeing her and having her, and carrying her, that when I didn't see that bump, I forgot in that split second that I had her. She's well, she's thriving, but I absolutely panicked. But I found out that was normal. So just know that after you have a baby, it's completely normal if you have some semblance of a panic attack.